Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Anu and myself on the topic of personalization at scale with data activation. So first of all, I wanted to give a little bit of a context around this topic. Let's imagine you are a VIP customer of a 5-star hotel, 4 seasons, and you have just arrived into New York for a week-long business trip. What happens? You will be greeted at the door by your name, your favorite pillow ready in your bedroom, and your favorite restaurant is already booked while you're in town. This is 5-star service, and they achieve this by asking you questions and remembering that every time you visit. And some of you might be wondering now, how do I do this? It's not very practical. I have, first of all, way many more customers compared to a hotel. And second of all, my average customer lifetime value is nowhere close to a luxury 5-star hotel. And also, not to mention the data privacy concerns when it comes to customer data. And you'll be right. And this is where personalization at scale come into play. So what does it mean at scale? So this means grouping users that are similar in a way into different cohorts. This could be thousands or tens of thousands or even larger groups of customers. In this way, you can communicate with them, you can approach them in a way that feels personal, does not invade on their privacy, and most importantly, in a cost-effective way. So what are some of the high ROI use cases? For those of you are in marketing, the 2 key issues facing all of you in the past few years are increasingly lack of tracking and the rising cost of acquisition costs. So with the tracking issue, the solution here is to look into your own first-party data. This is where you have full flexibility and control over how you attract and how you report on these numbers. And with the rising CAC costs, here what makes it really important is to understand who is a customer, a quality customer, as soon as possible, so you can send those signals back to your marketing campaign in order to optimize quickly. So what defines a high quality customer? If you are a freemium app, so this could be someone that bring you a lot of network effect, a lot of activities into your platform. If you are, a subscription model, this could be someone you can calculate it by the monthly subscription costs times the number of predicted number of months that will be using your services. If you are e-commerce, for example, this could be the predicted number of purchases times the average order value. I hate to sound like a broken record here. All this data, again, sits within your first-party data. And some of the high ROI use cases, if you already have an LTV prediction model, what you could do is automate this audience list into your marketing channels, for example, Meta, on a regular basis, for example, daily or weekly. This ensures your marketing channel has a constantly new list of records to optimize with. The other thing you could do is retargeting. So if you are capturing a list of users who are abandoning carts, for example, or subscribe to your email but never converted, you can start designing automated campaigns to then make sure they end up being a paid customer. So once you have acquired these customers, what you want to do is start building brand loyalty so they keep coming back to your product, your platform, and buy more and more from you. It wouldn't come as a surprise that majority of the consumers out there expect a personalized experience. We all want to feel special, and we want to get to what we want easily and quickly. And to achieve this, there's 3 key things you need to keep in mind. One is delivering at the right time, so at the time they are most likely to need this. And the content needs to be relevant towards the individual. And you also need to be via the right medium. So this could be email, could be in-app, could be SMS. It could also be direct mail. So to achieve this, what you need is a very robust set of customer insights. So let's dig into this a little bit deeper in terms of creating a tailored user experience. You might have heard of the concept of dynamic customer segmentation. So what makes it dynamic? Lots of the customer attributes out there doesn't change very often. For example, demographics, my gender, my age group, my geographics, they don't tend to change very much. But what will change is how I interact with your product and platform, how I consume your services, my taste, my purchase patterns. So these are all categorized as behavioral-based insights. So from here, what you could, once you know all these things, once you can flag how my behavior change, this is what enable you to automate a unique customer journey at every step of the way. One of a good example is churn prevention. So for example, actually, first of all, it's a lot easier to stop people from leaving you than try to bring them back once they have decided this is not a product for me, I'm going to look elsewhere. So what can you do here? Lots of the successful project we see is by predicting the likelihood of a user that is likely to churn, or the moment they become at risk. This could be a churn score, so a value between 0 or 1 that you're predicting on a daily value, and you have a threshold. Once a user crosses this threshold, then they will become flagged as high risk, or it could be a list of signals. For example, someone who hasn't logged in for a period of time, someone has started using your product or app a lot less, someone raised a campaign, or someone unsubscribed from your newsletter. All these signals, all the score that you have, you want to have a way to automate them into your CRM tools. And from there, you can start creating automated marketing campaigns to tackle them effectively and in a timely way. So how are companies activating data or struggling to activate data today? So we often see people doing this manually. So for example, downloading a list of people who attended an event and uploading that to HubSpot. This process is very time consuming and it creates a lot of friction. And we also see companies using their existing tools. For example, give me a list of people who bought a white t-shirts in the last 30 days. At the back of that, create marketing campaigns to send a discount code, for example, for a matching shorts. So this is a very blunt way of upselling, to say the very least, and not to mention the potential cannibalization when it comes to revenue. Some of the brands use their customer data platforms, or otherwise called CDPs. So these are the likes of Segment and Particles. This is a really good start. The downside of such approach, there's a couple. One, the costs associated with the CDP, the level of efforts required to integrate such a platform. And most importantly, your CDP is never going to be as knowledgeable as your data warehouse. For example, it's almost impossible to quickly get to a list of users who is at risk of churn easily within a CDP. And why is it so difficult? There's a couple of reasons we identified. First of all, is not having the right set of data. And within this, siloed data is one of the biggest culprit. So you have many different systems, you have a CRM tool, you have a backend database, you have Shopify, for example, you have a wide range, at least I think on average 5 to 10 tools for early stage brands. And other than data, strategy is another question mark. So sometimes it's unclear, what do we do with this mountain of the customer data? What is the effective way of reaching to customers and personalize? And third of all, let's say you have the data, you have a good business strategy. Typically, people are faced with the shortage of data skills within the company. Even if you have a data team already in-house, I have never heard a company that have enough data resources ever. And last but not least, not having the right tools. So, legacy systems, tools that don't speak to each other, and this exacerbates the problem on the shortage of data resources. So what is a better way? For those of you that already have or familiar with the modern data stack, the first 5 steps we listed here is what you would already have. So you have a centralized data warehouse, all your data is going into that, you're modeling that based on your unique business requirements and reporting that in a visualization tool. What is missing if you are not currently activating the data effectively is likely the last step. This is what typically called a reverse ETL. Reverse being the first 5 steps is the ETL process, the extraction, transformation, and loading of your data. And the last step is the other way around. So once you have the insight, bring it back to your third-party tools. Anu will have a much more detailed look into this step, but this is just to print you a high-level view of how this stack will look like. And some of the advantage of a reverse ETL, first of all, you already have really good, sophisticated, in-depth modeled insights within your data warehouse. Having this reverse ETL pipeline will help you automate all this insight to a very wide range of tools, the wide range of tools that you're already using, so you can make the most out of them. And most importantly, this is very time and resource efficient, especially when it comes to data and engineering resources. I'm gonna pass it on to Anu now, who will take you through how Census is helping companies solve this problem.
So what is reverse ETL? Reverse ETL is the process of syncing data from a source of truth, like a data warehouse, to a system of actions like a CRM, advertising platform, or other SaaS app. Reverse ETL lets you easily move data out of your warehouse and makes it available for frontline business teams to use in their favorite tools. Next slide, please. The modern data stack helps you to do 2 things. Get data into a centralized location, which can lower the operational overhead of managing multiple systems. And 2, helps in analyzing your business's data for driving new efficiencies and returns. But until recently, there has been no way to get this data reliably to other systems. Enter Census, a data activation platform with reverse ETL. We move your data from your warehouse into your SaaS tools. Now, marketing teams have customer data, like names and emails, sent to their marketing automation platforms to facilitate sending email campaigns. And sales folks have product usage data easily accessible to know when customers are hitting a feature gate in order to upsell. Support teams can have planned data in their customer success platforms like Zendesk so that they can prioritize tickets by top-tier users. And these are just a few examples. Next slide, please. This is Census's approach. This is how every piece fits together. We believe that the data warehouse should be your centralized source of truth at the bottom. And secondly, it is crucial to make that data actionable for the rest of the business. We cannot have a single source of truth without everyone taking action on that data. Data activation is a key aspect of your modern data stack. Entities are any unique object that your business cares about, like customers, users, product usage, or any unique object. You are already modeling this data. You may have a users table or an app usage table, and we believe that you should have full control over that data within Census. On top of that, you need a self-service layer for business users who often understand business use cases better, but to be able to discover those entities and define relationships between them. Once you have those entities defined, your business users can use the insights layer on top to build audiences across different entities. For example, customers that have attended the most events. You'll gain insights into the audiences themselves as well. For example, how are they changing over time? Once you have those entities and segments, you want to activate them to your apps where your go-to-market teams are, like HubSpot, Zendesk, Salesforce, Facebook ads, and so on. The activation layer is where this happens. The key takeaway here is that everything is built on the foundation of those governed entities and on top of your single source of truth. Next slide, please. On top of those entities, as part of the insights layer, sits the Audience Hub. Audience Hub is designed to help customer-facing teams build segments for advertising and marketing activation directly on top of the data warehouse. In the past, these sorts of tools were only available in siloed MarTech solutions. Audience Hub makes segmentation a core feature of a business's data stack, enabling marketing to collaborate with other business teams to create and experiment with segments that matter most and keep them in sync across all marketing, advertising, and other services powering your business. Audience Hub is designed from the ground up for marketing and other customer-facing teams to take advantage of the power of their company's data warehouse. It gives you the ability to access all of your Customer 360 data at your fingertips, build confidently knowing that the data is up to date, using the same definitions that power business intelligence and the rest of your business. Easily express segment conditions, including complex ones that work with event data, reference other segments, and other data sets, including third-party data sources. Experiment and iterate on segments over time, add conditions, and understand how they change. And keep segment definitions fresh and in sync across every customer engagement and advertising service that you use to target customers. So now I'm going to do a little demo. Let's start with Audience Hub because that's where we left off. I'm going to create an audience of users that we will send to HubSpot in order to facilitate an email campaign. So I'm going to click New Segment, and we're going to create a segment called VIP Users that will be a portion of a set of users, an entity of users. The first thing we want to do, because it's an email campaign, is to make sure that the email address is not blank. We want to add another condition also that says that this user has not opted out of marketing. You'll see that opt out of marketing is another segment that is on top of this entity of users. So excludes members of opt out of marketing. And then we also want to add a condition to see if this user is a VIP. And in order to do that, we look at their account. Are they a member of a VIP account? Is VIP is true. And then we want to also add a condition related to how many times they've logged in. So when an event named login has occurred at least, let's say, 5 times within the last 90 days. It's a pretty good VIP list. So the original set of users is 809, but now that we've added all of these conditions, we can estimate the size of a VIP user set, which should be a smaller subset of that. Now from here, I'm going to create a sync to HubSpot. So I can click syncs, and if there were other syncs that were related to this, they would be showing up here. But because it's a new segment, I'm going to create a new sync, click new sync here. And I want to use this VIP user segment, so it's automatically filled in here. And then we want to connect to HubSpot. And then I want to connect to the contact and static list object. So in HubSpot, this will add contacts to a static list, which then you can use to set up an email campaign. And so in order to figure out which contacts to put on the list, we want to use email address. So email in HubSpot matches to email in Snowflake in your segment. And then I want to create a new list, VIP users, 12th October 2023. Save. And then we can add some mappings. So I want to map the first name in Snowflake to the first name in HubSpot, and last name. And here you'll see all of the available fields on the HubSpot side, so you can choose any of those and you can map any of those from your source column. And there's a little widget here that allow you to do some other things. If you want last name constant, you could do that there. You could also change your data at runtime using Liquid template language. So if you wanted to make This would be useful if you wanted to create one segment for multiple destinations, but maybe Facebook has a different format for something than Google Ads, and you don't want to change your segment. You can change things at runtime using this liquid template. Okay, so for now, we'll just click last name and save, and then I'm going to click next, and I'm going to run this sync now. So we'll hit create. And that's going to start running. And while that's running, I'll show you some other things. So here are the sources. I keep mentioning Snowflake because I've set up a connection to Snowflake. This allows you to define any source that you want. Our sources are enterprise ready. Census interacts with them in a read-only fashion and also provides state tracking and maximum security. So Snowflake is one option, but we also support many other sources. And once you click one of these, you'll be taken through a login and you'll be able to choose. So let's look at Google BigQuery. Here you can choose project ID, location, and then your service account key, and that will give you an idea of how to log in. And then if we go to destinations, here are a number of setup destinations. You'll see HubSpot at the bottom. That's where we're syncing to today, but also Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Salesforce, Clearbit. On top of that, we support over 150 destinations in a scalable, fast, and high fidelity way. It's easy to set up once since we maintain the connections. And if the API changes on the Salesforce side or on the Facebook side, our connectors will be updated to manage that change. So if we go back to the sync, we'll see that it's finished now. It was successful. We've synced 29 records to HubSpot. Now, if we go to HubSpot, you can see I'm sharing HubSpot now. Can everyone see HubSpot? Yes. Okay, great. You'll see the new list here, VIP users, 12th October 2023. And if I click into it, you'll see my list of 29 users, and that was almost instantaneous. And then now you can use this list in HubSpot to send an email advertising to your VIP users, you know, a fancy night in a hotel room or whatever you'd like. On top of the sources, we can create models. So models allow you to define source data on top of your data warehouse using a number of different methods. You can use SQL. So SQL, this user's model is the basis for the entity, which we'll get to next. And it's just a SQL statement that runs on top of your Snowflake. But you can also connect your Snowflake to Python models. You can use dbt. So here you can connect your dbt and you'll see a number of dbt models coming in, and that will allow you to use the existing models that you've already created in Census without having to create them again. We also support Looker and Sigma Warehouse, or Sigma Workbook, sorry. And within each model, you can also view the activity around each model. So this was created 2 months ago. If there were any other changes, then you would be able to see them here as well. So if Candace had made a change, then that would show up here as well. So moving on to entities. Entities are a core concept in Census. They typically represent a single thing, like a person or a company, though they can be other things like invoices or events or devices. Your entity should include as many columns as possible so that others can easily reuse those entities in segments or in syncs, the way that we did with the VIP users. And setting up entities in Census gives you the opportunity to define where that data is stored, what it is, how it's related, and more. So referring to the segment we set up earlier, you can see how those entities are connected. We created a VIP segment in users, but we also looked at the user's events, and then we also looked at the user's account. And here the relationship shows that you can have a user has more than one event, and an account has more than one user. And from this screen also, you can enable enrichments. So Census enrichments make it easy to connect third-party data to the first-party data that you have in your warehouse. For example, let's say you want to make a statement. Give me all of your current users that work at companies for more than 100 employees. That type of query is pretty simple, but you may not have that data. You have customer data, but you probably don't have how many companies or how many employees work at the company that they work for. Census enrichment makes it really simple to enable data enrichment directly in your warehouse. Currently, would support Apollo, Clearbit, and S&P. So you can, as a destination, we set up Clearbit. You can just click Clearbit here, and it will allow you to specify which fields you want, and then that will save directly into your warehouse. Not only can you use that in Census, but you can use that throughout your business. Now, if we loop back to Audience Hub, this is where the marketing team would do most of their work. I showed you before how to set up a segment, but we have a number of additional features to help the marketing team achieve fast and complete audience targeting, including split tests. So once you've created a segment, you can take advantage of split test experiments. Let's just save this again. Where you can divide a segment into multiple treatments for different channels and compare their conversion rates for the same segment across. So let's say you wanted to send one email in HubSpot. So I'd call this HubSpot. And then you also wanted to do a Facebook ad. And then you wanted to do a Google ad. And you could set up syncs to each of those destinations. And then the segment would split across those destinations. And you could save that experiment here. Another thing you can do is, if we go to an older segment, you'll see in activity, this shows you segment size over time. So up until very recently, this segment contained 58 users. Now it contains 809, but you can see the upward trajectory over time here. So this lets you see over time how your data has changed. And here's an example again of the activity. So I've made some changes to this. So you see that my name is here. And then another feature we have here is comparison. So let's go back to base, actually. Base segment, comparison. Okay, so we're going to compare VIP users and opt out of marketing. And theoretically, this should show 0% overlap because I've already opted marketing out of VIP users. So let's head back to syncs. I wanted to focus a little bit more on sync observability. So here we see the overview of the sync. This is the sync that we just completed. 29 records were changed. Destination accepted 29 records. No records were rejected, and it took less than a minute. And here you can see the 4 steps of a sync: preparing the sync, reading from your source via your segment, sending it to HubSpot, and finishing the sync. There's also a number of configuration options around the sync. So scheduling, you can run a sync on a schedule. Manual means that you have to come and hit start, but that's not always useful, right? You want to be able to just set it and forget it sometimes, have your data updated automatically, and for which we have a schedule that can go from weekly up to continuous. And also you could also set a cron job if you want. So continuous means that Census checks your data source every minute to see if there's any changes. You can also set up a trigger. So a trigger happens based on the action of another system. So a sequence means this sync, if I set it up, will run after the ending of a different sync. So it's like a sequence of syncs. Also, you could set it up if you're using dbt Cloud to sync after dbt Cloud has finished a particular job. Same with Fivetran. Also, you can connect via API and start your sync that way. The sync history here shows you the history of all the times that the sync has run. So as I mentioned before, the 59 records, now there's 809, but it also shows whether there were rejections, whether there are any records that were invalid, and you can see a sample of why they were invalid. So this person appears more than once, so HubSpot has rejected them. And that gives you an idea of what is going on in your sync. And also the API inspector here will show you exactly what calls to the API on the HubSpot side, in this case, are being called, so you can really understand what's going on with your data. Also, there's an alerting capability within Census, which means you don't, once you've set it up your syncs on a schedule, you don't have to come back and check on them to make sure they're running smoothly, because if they aren't, you'll get an alert by email, or you could set it up to be by Slack or Microsoft Teams. So anytime the sync fails or is invalid or is rejected, you'll get a notification. Last thing I'm going to show you is role-based access. So an organization has a number of members and a number of workspaces. Workspaces are meant to give the Census users the ability to control what members of their organization can access information or take particular actions. You can manage permissions granularly for different teams or use cases. For example, here, sales and marketing has a space, customer success has a space, finance has a space. I am not in customer success or finance, so I don't have access to these workspaces, but I do have access to sales and marketing, and my role here is a member. So I don't have admin rights. I'm not an owner, but I am a member. But if I go into my workspace, I have some more granular settings here. Here I'm an owner. I could also be a member or just a viewer, which means I could view what's in the workspace but not make any changes. And that is the end of my demo. Oliver, have there been any questions?
So the first is, we've sort of mentioned that segment and particle, they struggle with longer term metrics such as churn predictions or LTV. Can you elaborate a little bit about why that would be and what Census does that's different?
So segment and particles, the CDP tools are very good at responding to real-time events. Which means they react to single data points. So longer, more meaningful data like trend prediction that require a lot more analysis and sometimes data science models. So we talked about predictions, for example. We talked about finding out what flags a user who is likely to churn. So these things require analytics and requires modeling within the data warehouse. That's why CDPs struggle to give you this level of insights. Anu, do you have things to add?
No, I think you covered it. I think most importantly, the data warehouse has all of your historical data, right? And you don't have to move that into Segment or anything in order to have access to it. You can just pop Census on top of it and immediately have access.
100%.
Cool. Let's go to Arun's question. He says, how do you manage/deal with data privacy?
So Census is completely GDPR compliant. We are in the cloud. We're completely secure. We don't store any of your customer data. So all the data is stored in your data warehouse. We simply move it to your SaaS applications.